The seat behind the curtaincy never imagined that on the most important day of my son's life, I would be treated like an inconvenience, like a stain someone wanted to hide. But as I stood at the entrance of the grand banquet hall, clutching the edge of my shawl, that's exactly what I felt. The hall buzzed with laughter, bright chandeliers sparkling like stars. Guests in shimmering dresses moved gracefully between decorated tables. Cameras flashed, capturing every moment. It was a beautiful scene, one I should have been proud to be part of. But instead of welcoming me, the wedding planner gave me a confused look, then whispered something to the groom's sister. They exchanged glances uneasy, irritated, and then she walked toward me with a stiff smile stretching across her face. "Auntie, your seat is this way," she said, her voice thin, forced. She didn't offer me her arm. She didn't even look me in the eyes. She just turned and walked out. I followed quietly, my heart pounding. She led me past the main hall, where rows of beautifully arranged chairs awaited the VIP guests, where the groom's parents were expected to sit proudly in the front row. But she didn't stop there. She walked farther, into a dim corner behind two heavy velvet curtains. "Auntie, you can sit here," she murmured. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Surely they wouldn't put the groom's mother behind a curtain, behind pillars, behind everything. I blinked. Beta, this is not the parent seating area. She looked away, uncomfortable. Bobby said it's better if you sit here. Guests from the bride's side. They're very classy, you know. She doesn't want any confusion. Her words hit me like stones. Confusion? Classy, what did that even mean? I wore my best clothes, a simple but elegant pale gold saree my husband had gifted me before he passed away. I had done my hair neatly. I looked presentable decent. Why was I being hidden? I tried to swallow the lump rising in my throat. "Where's my son?" I asked softly. She sighed. "He's busy, Auntie, and Bobby doesn't want any scenes today. Please just sit. Just sit." Hidden like old furniture that didn't match the new decor, I lowered myself onto the lonely chair tucked behind the curtain. The muffled sounds of celebration echoing around me but never touching me. My son's wedding was happening a few feet away, and yet, I had never felt farther from him in my entire life. When my son looked away, sitting behind that curtain felt like being trapped between two worlds, one where celebrations roared, and another where silence pressed against my chest. Every cheer, every clap made me flinch, as if each sound reminded me of the place where I should have been but wasn't. I shifted slightly, trying to peek between the heavy velvet folds. I saw glimpses of the beautifully lit stage, the floral arch, and finally my son, standing tall in his cream sherwani. He looked handsome, glowing with pride and excitement. My heart swelled. For a moment, I forgot where I was. "That's my boy," I whispered to myself. The same boy who once held my hand crossing busy roads, who refused to sleep unless I tucked him in, who cried into my lap the day his father died. I smiled softly, until the bride's sister appeared beside him and whispered something in his ear. He turned slowly toward my direction. My breath hitched. "He's looking for me," I thought, hope stirring in my chest like a timid flame. But the moment his eyes met mine, just barely through the small gap in the curtain, his expression changed. He froze. Then, he looked away. Not confused, not surprised, just avoiding. As if he already knew I was placed here. As if he had agreed to it. A sharp pain sliced through my chest. I pressed my trembling fingers against my saree, trying to steady my breathing. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe he didn't see me properly. Maybe, "Auntie, please don't peek out," the wedding planner hissed suddenly, stepping toward me. "They don't want anyone thinking the arrangements are messy. Like I was clutter." I flinched back, clutching the armrest. "I just want to see my son," I whispered. She sighed impatiently. "From here you'll see enough." Enough? Was it enough that I raised him alone? Was it enough that I worked double shifts so he could study abroad? Was it enough that I sold my jewelry to pay his fees? Was it enough that I never remarried so he wouldn't feel alone? Was that enough? I wiped a tear before it fell. No one should see a mother cry at her son's wedding, not when she wasn't even allowed to attend properly. But the universe has a way of revealing truths. Because just as I lowered my head, I heard someone whisper loudly from the other side of the curtain. "Why is the groom's mother sitting back there? What kind of family hides their own?" The words sliced through the hall, and suddenly, the curtain didn't feel thick enough to protect anyone's secrets anymore. The whispers that started as storm murmurs grew louder, spreading through the hall like ripples on still water. At first, it was just one curious voice, then another, then a cluster of guests turning their heads, following each other's confused expressions. I sat frozen, my fingers gripping the curtain's edge. I could hear everything, every whisper slicing through the polished perfection of the wedding decor. Is that really the groom's mother? Why is she sitting there? Did they hide her? That last word hide echoed in my ears. I wasn't meant to be the center of attention. I knew that. It was my son's special day. But being treated like an embarrassment, being tucked away like old furniture, that humiliation clung to my throat like dust. I slowly straightened my back, forcing myself to breathe. I tried to shrink in my seat, hoping the whispers would fade. But they did in single quotes T. Instead. The bride's mother marched toward the curtains. Her face was tight, lips pressed into a thin line. Her expensive jewelry jingled with each furious step. One look at her and I knew someone had told her. She yanked the curtain open so abruptly that light burst onto my face. There you are, she snapped under her breath, as if I were a misbehaving servant. Why are people talking? Who allowed you to poke your head out? I blinked at her, stunned. I didn't say anything. I'm just sitting where they told me to sit, she scoffed. We placed you here for a reason. The bride's side has a certain standard. Your presence out front would spoil the photographs. The words felt like acid. Standard? My presence spoil? I turned my head away, unable to meet her harsh gaze. I am his mother, I whispered. She leaned closer, her voice sharper than a blade. And this wedding is not about you. Before I could speak, someone else approached the bride herself. She looked stunning in her red lehenga, every detail perfect, except the coldness in her eyes. Mama, what's happening? She hissed. People are whispering. This is embarrassing. The bride's mother pointed at me. She's the reason. A heaviness settled in my chest so strong I thought it might crush me. The bride crossed her arms and stared down at me. Auntie, please cooperate. We can't afford drama on stage. Just stay here, okay? Quietly. Double quotes. Quietly. Hidden. Small. Invisible. But before I could reply, a voice boomed from across the hall. Who put my mother behind a curtain? Everything went silent, including my heart. Asterisk. My son finally sees me. Asterisk. His voice cut through the hall like thunder. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. The groom. My son, standing on the floral stage, his expression darkening by the second. Even the dole players stopped mid-beat. The videographer lowered his camera. The hall froze. My son stepped down from the stage, his cream sherwani swaying with each determined stride. With every step he took, the bride's family stiffened, panic rippling across their faces. The bride whispered sharply, "Why is he coming here?" But her question melted into silence as he pushed past the crowd and reached the curtains. There I was on that lonely chair trying to make myself small, trying not to embarrass anyone, trying not to cry. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Amy," he breathed, kneeling beside me as if the rest of the world no longer existed. "Why are you sitting here? Who told you to sit behind this?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. They tangled in my throat, stuck between humiliation and heartbreak. I looked away, wiping the corner of my eye. Before I could speak, the bride's mother jumped in. "Beta, we only asked her to sit here because..." He raised his hand sharply. "Please, don't." She froze. He turned back to me, his voice softer now, almost breaking. "Amy, did you think I wanted this? Did you think I would ever put you here?" I didn't want to cry. I tried so hard not to, but the tears slipped out anyway. "I just didn't want to cause a scene," I whispered. "They said you were busy. They said it's better if I stay back here. I thought, maybe you agreed." His jaw tightened. Anger, regret, disbelief, everything flickering across his face in one painful moment. He stood up suddenly and faced the entire hall. "My mother," he said, voice echoing, "is not going to sit behind a curtain at my wedding." The hall went pin-drop silent. Guests exchanged glances, some shocked, some embarrassed. The bride's mother looked furious. The bride looked horrified. "We gave you a proper seat." The bride's mother tried again. She must have misunderstood. My son stepped closer, eyes blazing. "No, you misunderstood. She's not just someone, she's my mother. She raised me alone. She paid for everything in my life. And you put her in a corner like she's a burden?" The bride whispered, "Can you not do this right now? People are watching." "Yes," he said firmly, "and they should." He reached out his hand to me. "Amy, come with me. You're sitting beside me on the stage." And just like that, the entire wedding shifted. The bride's true colors. Asterisk. My son guided me toward the stage, his hand gripping mine with a protectiveness I hadn't felt in years. My feet trembled as I walked, not because of age, but because of the hundreds of eyes watching, some pitying, some ashamed, and some burning with judgment. Every step felt like reclaiming a piece of dignity that had been snatched from me. But not everyone welcomed that. As soon as we reached the front, the bride stepped closer, her face stiff behind her makeup, her jaw tight enough to crack. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered harshly to my son, her voice trembling with barely controlled anger. This is humiliating. My son looked at her with disbelief. Humiliating for whom? Because I want my mother beside me? The bride shot me a cold look, the kind that sliced without words. Your mother could have sat quietly. No one asked her to. Quietly? My son snapped. She wasn't even given a seat. She was hidden. Behind curtains, a few guests gasped. Someone whispered shameful. The bride clenched her fists, cheeks flaming. It wasn't meant to be like that. Mama just wanted everything to look proper. There it was again. The word that had been used to shrink me into the shadows. My heart ached. But before I could say anything, the bride marched toward me. Her voice low but venomous. Auntie, please understand. Your clothes, your style. It's different from what our guests are used to. We didn't want people judging. I stiffened as another sting hit me. So that was it. My sari wasn't designer enough. My jewelry wasn't heavy enough. I didn't fit their aesthetic. Before she could finish, my son stepped between us, blocking me from her sharp words. That's enough, he said, voice firm. If your concern is appearances, then you don't understand what respect means. The bride's eyes widened. Are you seriously taking her side over mine? At our wedding, my mother is not her. She's everything that made me who I am. His voice didn't rise, but the conviction in it echoed louder than any shout. The bride's mother hurried over, trying to salvage control. Beta, let's not spoil the wedding. We can handle this later. No, my son said. We handle it now, because the wedding is already spoiled if the person who gave me life wasn't treated with basic dignity. Silence fell again. The videographers slowly lifted their cameras. Guests leaned in. The bride looked between her husband and me, and for the first time, fear replaced her arrogance, because she realized something. This wasn't just a small argument. This was the moment that would decide what kind of marriage she was stepping into. The vows that broke apart. The atmosphere around the stage thickened, heavy enough to choke. Musicians hesitated, unsure whether to resume playing. The guests shifted in their seats, watching the unfolding drama like a scene from a movie, one no one expected, but everyone was now invested in. My son stood beside me, shoulders squared, his jaw set in a way I'd only seen when he was protecting someone he loved. I placed a gentle hand on his arm. Beta, please, don't fight on your wedding day, I whispered, my voice barely holding steady. I don't want this. He turned to me, eyes softening instantly. Amy, this fight isn't because of you. It's for you. Before I could reply, the bride stepped forward, pulling him aside, yet loud enough for everyone to hear. So what now? She hissed. You're making a scene for someone who was already seated. It wasn't a big deal. A small insult is still an insult, my son replied. Not backing down, she scoffed. This is childish. Your mother is being dramatic. She could have told us if she was uncomfortable. I slowly inhaled, trying not to let my emotions spill over. But my son shook his head, glaring. She didn't want to ruin your big day, he said with emphasis. She kept quiet even when she was humiliated. The bride rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Everyone is exaggerating. Mama only said what I said. The bride's mother interrupted loudly. Was to maintain class and presentation. Weddings are about impressions, not unnecessary interference. Gasps rippled across the hall. Even members of their own family looked shocked. My son exhaled sharply. There it is. Exactly what I mean. The bride's voice cracked. So what? You're choosing her dignity over my wedding? Yes, he said without hesitation. The bride's mouth fell open. Tears welled in her eyes, not of hurt, but of rage. You promised me, she whispered, trembling, that nothing would ruin this day, and I meant it, he said firmly. But you ruined it the moment you disrespected my mother. Silence engulfed the hall. Even the air seemed afraid to move. He reached for my hand again. We can still continue the wedding, he said gently to the bride, but only if you apologize to my mother. Right here, right now. The bride stared at him as though he had asked for the impossible. Apologize? She repeated, voice cracking. To her, in front of everyone? My son nodded. Yes, because respecting her is the first vow I will take as your husband. The bride stepped back. Her silence said everything. This wedding was about to take a turn no one saw coming. The shocking revelation. The room held its breath. The bride's lips trembled as she struggled to form words. Every guest's eyes darted between my son, me, and her, waiting for the inevitable eruption. Then, unexpectedly, she took a deep breath and whispered, I won't apologize. The silence shattered. Gasps erupted across the hall. Even her own family seemed stunned into silence, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. My son's jaw tightened, but his hand on mine never wavered. Then this wedding is over, he said calmly, each word deliberate, heavy with finality. The bride's mouth opened again, as if to argue, but no sound came out. Her face turned pale, and her hands shook. For a moment, it was as if she finally understood that this was no ordinary confrontation. This was about respect, about boundaries, about decades of unseen pain finally surfacing. I felt a strange mixture of pride and sorrow swell in my chest. My son, my own flesh and blood, had finally chosen dignity over drama, respect over appearances. But at what cost? The guests murmured among themselves. Some nodded quietly in approval, others whispered judgment. The air buzzed with tension thick enough to slice through with a knife. Suddenly, the bride's mother stepped forward, her face a mask of indignation. "You can't just, this is a family matter. This is a wedding. You are ruining everything." "My mother's dignity isn't a matter for negotiation," my son said, his voice steady but unwavering. "And neither is my conscience." I felt tears prick my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Decades of sacrifice, humiliation, and silent endurance had led to this moment. Watching him stand up for what was right, it was both exhilarating and heartbreaking. The bride finally spoke again, voice barely audible. You'll regret this. Everyone will see you as heartless." He shook his head. "No, you'll regret it if you think disrespecting the woman who gave me life is acceptable." She turned on her heel and stormed out, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Guests gasped, whispers spreading like wildfire. I exhaled slowly, my hands still in my son's. The storm had passed, but the aftermath was undeniable. This was more than just a wedding gone wrong, it was a battle fought, a line drawn, and a lesson taught, and in that quiet moment, I realized, for the first time in years, I wasn't just a mother being ignored. I was a mother whose voice mattered, a mother whose dignity could not be bought, silenced, or overlooked. The wedding may have ended, but the real victory had just begun. Chapter 8. The secret that shattered everything. The days after the wedding fiasco were tense. I thought the chaos had ended, but life had a cruel way of proving me wrong. Just as I began to regain a sense of calm, a letter arrived, plain, unmarked, but heavy with the weight of secrets. I hesitated, my fingers trembling as I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was familiar. Hers, my daughter-in-law. My heart sank. The note was simple, yet its words cut deeper than any insult or scream could. It revealed truths I hadn't dared imagine, hidden debts, secret property sales, and a web of lies my son had unknowingly walked into. She hadn't just been manipulative, she had been planning for years to take everything from us. My hands shook as I read each line. The realization was like ice running through my veins. The betrayal was deeper than I'd ever imagined. It wasn't just pride or disrespect, it was calculated, premeditated, and personal. I felt a storm of emotions rise within me: anger, fear, grief, and an undeniable surge of protective instinct. How could someone be so cruel, so cold? And yet, underneath the fury, there was a spark of something else, a determination that this time, I would not be a victim. When my son returned that evening, I handed him the letter. His face paled as he read, each word etching horror into his expression. I watched as the boy who had once been blindly loyal to his wife now stood upright, eyes blazing with clarity and resolve. "She's been planning this all along," he whispered, voice tight with disbelief. "Every argument, every tear, every favor she owed me, it was all a setup." I nodded. "She's dangerous, but we're not powerless anymore." We spent the night plotting, tracing every detail, uncovering financial trails she thought she had hidden too well. The more we discovered, the more appalling it became. I realized then that the battles of the past, her insults, her public humiliation, were only the beginning. The real war was just beginning, and this time, we would fight with every tool at our disposal. By dawn, a cold clarity had settled over me. For the first time in years, I felt in control. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was preparing. She had underestimated us, believed she could break our family with deception, but she had underestimated one thing: the power of truth, of love, and the fierce determination of a mother who refused to be defeated. The grand confrontation. The day of reckoning arrived like a storm on a summer afternoon, sudden, intense, and impossible to ignore. I had spent weeks gathering proof, tracing every transaction, every secret account, every hidden property. My son and I had become a team, united by betrayal and a shared desire for justice. She arrived that morning, wearing the same flawless smile she always used to hide her schemes. But today, there would be no applause for her deception. Today, the truth would speak louder than any lie. I invited her into the living room, the air heavy with tension. My son stood beside me, eyes steady, hands clenched. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker across her face. Her confidence, The armor she had worn so well wavered. "I know everything," I said, my voice calm but firm, each word slicing through the tension like a knife. "The accounts you've hidden, the properties you've sold, the debts you've buried. It's all here. And we have the proof." Her smile faltered, replaced by a calculated attempt at denial. I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice shaky, betraying the fear she tried to mask. My son stepped forward, handing her a folder thick with evidence. "Do you really think we wouldn't find out? Do you think we'd allow you to destroy everything our family built?" I watched as her hands trembled, her perfect mask cracking. She realized then that this was no ordinary argument, no simple confrontation. This was exposure. This was justice. Tears pricked my eyes, but not for sorrow. This was triumph, long awaited and sweet. She had underestimated us, assumed that deception would always win, but she had forgotten one fundamental truth. You cannot destroy a family built on love and resilience. By the end of the afternoon, she was defeated. Every lie, every scheme, every hidden agenda laid bare before her. My son and I had reclaimed what was ours, and more importantly, we had reclaimed our dignity. I felt a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion, knowing the battle was over, but there was also a quiet satisfaction and understanding that this was more than victory over her. It was a reaffirmation of who we were as a family. And as I looked at my son, I realized something profound. Even in the darkest moments, truth has a way of shining through, exposing the shadows where deceit hides. She had tried to break us, but instead, she had made us stronger. The new beginning. The house was quiet that evening, but it wasn't the heavy, tense quiet that had haunted us for months. No, this was a quiet of peace, of victory, of closure. My son and I sat together in the living room, reflecting on everything that had happened, the lies, the betrayals, the heartbreak, and ultimately, the triumph. I looked around at the home that had once been a battlefield. It felt different now, lighter somehow. The shadows of deceit that had once lingered in every corner were gone. Every room seemed to breathe, filled with the laughter and warmth of a family finally free from the weight of betrayal. My son broke the silence. "Mom, I never realized how strong you were until all this. You didn't just protect us, you saved our family." I smiled, a soft, genuine smile that reached my eyes. "It wasn't just me, it was us together." She underestimated the bond we have. That's what she couldn't break, no matter how hard she tried. We talked for hours, recounting every twist, every confrontation, every victory. Each story, each memory, reminded us that we had survived something that could have destroyed us. And yet, here we were, stronger, closer, unbroken. The next morning, I walked into the garden, the crisp air filling my lungs. I felt a sense of renewal, a kind of rebirth. The betrayal that had once seemed so devastating had become a lesson, a testament to resilience. I had learned that no matter how dark the storm, the sun always rises, and truth always finds its way to light later. My son and I met with our extended family, sharing the full story, not for revenge, not for gossip, but to reclaim our narrative. Every smile, every hug, every word of support reminded us that family isn't just blood, it's loyalty, love, and the courage to stand together when the world tries to tear you apart. And then, finally, I looked at myself in the mirror. The reflection staring back wasn't just a woman who had endured betrayal. It was a woman who had survived, who had fought, and who had reclaimed everything that was rightfully hers. A woman who had turned pain into strength, betrayal into wisdom, and loss into triumph. As I stepped into the next chapter of my life, I knew one thing for certain: nothing, and no one, could ever take away what we had regained. We had been tested and we had emerged victorious, unshaken, and unstoppable. This was not just an ending, it was a new beginning.